Talal here. We're here at a church here in St. Louis where the Rev Al Sharpton will speak shortly. We came out to appeal to him and see if we can get him to support us on our efforts to vindicate the murder of Kellyanne Hamilton, who was murdered by the Farmington Police Department, the St. Francis County Sheriff's Department, and two bail bondsman agencies last February 2012 in Farmington, Missouri, and the media basically swept it under the rug. So hopefully we'll get a chance to speak with the Reverend or get the message over to him so that we can garner his support in this effort.
In consideration of Black History Month and the many years, I say many years, but several years that you've been with us and your dedicated, outstanding work, not just in 1 month of Black History of February, but in many months, every month that you've been here. We're so proud to present to you this dedication and award from the entire flock of San Francisco Temple for your outstanding leadership and role in helping us to live a greater life in Christ Jesus. And this award that we have here is custom made, just like you have been custom made.
PhD on this 17th day of February 2013 for being an outstanding leader, shepherd, and pastor. Much love, appreciation, and prayer. Your San Francisco Temple Christian Assembly flock. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
2004, he was a candidate for the Democratic nomination for the U.S. presidential election. And he hosts his own radio talk show that many of you listen to this morning, Keeping It Real. And he makes regular guest appearances on Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC. 2011, he was named the host of MSNBC's Politics Nation and Nightly Talk Show.
Wow! Wow! Wow!
If you want to know more, do what you do. Go on Google and Google him up. And you will find out. But what an honor it is esteemed man of God. We're giving 500. We're giving you this folder of 4 uncut $2 bills. We just want to give something back to you. You're giving to the church all the time. This is the way the church can give back to you. And so thank you for the sacrifices that you have been making toward us. Amen. So if there's anybody else who will give 1,000 or 500, just raise your hand. Thank you. Mother Mac sent her $1,000 by me. Put those in. This is my church. Tell somebody. Al Sharpton.
Thank you. You may be seated, giving honor to God, to our pastor, Bishop Blackwell, and to all of the ministers of the gospel, and to all of you that gather here at this hour to worship God in spirit and in truth. First, I thank God for another day. A day that we neither earned nor deserved. A lot of us get up in the morning like God owed us another day. Or like we had done something to earn another day. But I don't care how saved you are. I don't care how holy you look to us. All of us have done enough wrong that if God just checked the record, none of us would see the next morning. So every day is a gift from God. A lot of folk be Googling up what the weather gonna be like. I never Google up the weather. Every day is a good day to me. Could be a good cold day, Good hot day, good rainy day, good dry day, good cloudy day, good clear day. Don't matter to me. Every day above ground is a good day. Because every day I get up, I realize that somehow while I slept, a divine decision was made to look beyond my faults and supply my needs. So I try to show God every day that I'm grateful that He gave me what He didn't owe me, but He gave it to me anyhow. That I'm happy and honored to be here at this great church and this great work. And a friend of mine called and told me about coming. I said, oh yeah, now he's continuing to work here. And let me tell you something, we talk about Black History Month, but God is still making history. Don't become experts at what God has done, that you miss what God is doing. God is still making history, and if you don't believe it, you come right here to this complex and see what He's doing through the ministry of Bishop Blackwell. Come on, y'all can do better. One of the things that you can see is the development that he is doing in terms of educating and instructing. We have far too many people in the ministry that don't even know what they are preaching. You know, most folk know the Bible because they heard somebody quote something. And they quote what they heard somebody else say. They never studied it for themselves. And if who they quoting got it wrong, they've been quoting it wrong all these years. We, in many ways, worship by rumor rather than by study. And Bishop Blackwell has began building and educating, and we should not take that for granted. And when I saw his ministry of education and ministry of bookstore, let me tell you something. You can't teach what you don't know. Very few churches have bookstores because very few of us reading. We entertain each other and never really change our thought process. The Bible says, as a man thinketh, not just as you feel. James Brown saying, I got the feeling. You need to get the thinking so your feeling is in the right direction. And I admire and respect what he's doing. And then I watched and walked and saw the outstanding display of what he has done in memory of our bishop that has gone on. And the reason that is important, generation, God don't deal in confusion, He deals in continuity. Every prophet follows another prophet. Every leader follows another leader. Everyone is connected to something before them. First time we meet Jesus, first thing in Matthew does is give us his connection to history. If you meet somebody that is not connected to something before them, you better get away from them.
That's right.
You know, back in the day when the old folk used to meet young men want to court their daughters, first thing they say is, who is their folk? If we don't know where you come from, you ain't going nowhere with us. Any leader that is not respectful of those that led before them is disconnected and can't be trusted. Because you must be connected to what is connected to the beginning. And you connect on to what's going to be behind you. And his connection and his reverence for that connection is something we should respect. So give him another hand. Our Bishop. Also, very happy and honored to be joined with one of the outstanding corporate leaders in our nation. Many years, he was one of the executives leading at Anheuser-Busch. He now is leading in another dimension. Glad to have Johnny Furr and his wife with me this morning. Give him a hand, Johnny Furr. As we think about Black History Month, you know, this is an interesting time because as I study those that preceded us in civil rights work and in the work in the church, Bishop, that they have not had to deal with the times we're dealing now. Dr. King and others that served in the 60s, those that served before them, never had to deal with how we answer the call of service to hold government accountable under a black head of state. So we've got the peculiar assignment of protecting and challenging a man at the same time. Want to make him do right, but also have to protect him from those that would condemn him. I sat there in Washington 5 weeks ago, and the head of the NAACP and head of Urban League and me leading National Action Network were his guests on the platform as he was inaugurated. And as I sat there and watched them swear him in for his second term, one of the senators sitting behind me said, Rev Al, isn't it wonderful to see the president being sworn in on Lincoln's Bible and on Dr. King's Bible? I said, yeah, it's a wonderful thing. I said, but don't be confused. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, Lincoln's Bible and Dr. King's Bible, same Bibles, same amount of books, same amount of chapters, same verses, same words. But they took two different routes to get here. Lincoln's Bible was on the mantelpiece in the White House. Heads of states read that Bible. Leaders of government and industry saw that Bible. Dr. King's Bible didn't come that route. Dr. King's Bible came through the poor regions of Mississippi and through the country churches of Georgia. When he went to jail in Birmingham, they put him in a cell and checked his Bible and his property. If you look in the front of his Bible, his cell number's in the Bible. Because the bailiff put his Bible in the locker as property when they locked him up in the Birmingham jail. But little did that bailiff know that that Bible one day would be swearing in the President of the United States. If you're faithful over a few things, he'll make you ruler over many. I told Martin Luther King III many years ago, we were flying somewhere, Bishop, and we getting ready to land. I told him, I said, you know, Martin, we always look at the bad. You got to look at what God does with things. I said, your father really won. He said, what do you mean he won? I said, well, I know he was killed before his 40th birthday, left a beautiful widow and beautiful children, never knew if y'all became adults, never knew if y'all went to college, never knew where you went to school, laid on a cold balcony in Memphis, Tennessee, and died. I said, but he really won. He said, well, what do you mean by that, Al? I said, well, remember your mother used to show us the pictures of them dragging him up that the second Monday every year in January, that courthouse is closed celebrating his birthday. Judge can't come to work. Bail office closed. Post office closed. Schools closed. The whole nation closed down every year for a black preacher from Georgia that never held office. We look at what we see rather than what God can take and make us if we let go and believe that God has something special for us. We become married to our misery. And one of the things that we must do is break that yoke. I've been meeting with the rappers and telling them about the language we use. Because some of the reason that a lot of us can't get further is we set a mental ceiling on where to go. When I was growing up, we didn't have the things we have today, but we thought bigger. James Brown was singing, "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud." Aretha was singing "Respect." I know y'all was in church, y'all wasn't listening to that kind of music. But today, the music sets a mentality of defeat, calling women out their names, using the N-word. If you call yourself something, you're going to behave what you call yourself. So we have started this campaign to bury the N-word. All of us has used it, but we said that's just bad. It limits how we think. It limits the psychology of our students. Johnny heard me talk about it before. One of the rappers got mad with me. Said, no, I'm going to use whatever I want to use. We had a debate one night on television, about an hour and a half. He had a nigger fit on me. Nigger. I kept saying, brother, I know we've used the word, but we nigger. All night long, just niggered me to death. Finally, we couldn't come to terms. He went his way, I went mine. About 4 or 5 weeks later, Bishop, I was on the road somewhere, and I picked up the paper, and he had been arrested. Got in some altercation with somebody, and they locked him up. About 2 days after that, they called me from my office in New York, said he was on the phone, wanted to talk to me. I said, well, put him through to my cell phone. They put him through. I said, how you doing? Man, I ain't doing that good. I said, what happened? Man, I got busted. I said, yeah, I read about it. I said, I'm sorry to hear about that. Well, yeah, I need your help. I said, you need my help? I need your help. I said, well, what you need me to do? He said, they violated my civil rights. I told him, niggas ain't got no civil rights. Just move for his plan. Moses ended up being the one that God took out of Pharaoh's house and sent him back to the house he grew up and told him, tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Now, not only am I going to send you, I'm going to back you up. Anytime God sends somebody, he'll back them up. That's why a lot of you, everybody in here, God has called for something. Everybody was born for some purpose, some reason. God didn't just call preachers, God called everybody. The reason many of us don't fulfill our calling is we too busy not believing that we can do what God called us to do. You feel in your heart, you feel in your spirit, you know in your soul that You've got this compulsion. You got this pulling, this calling to do something. But you check with everybody else. Do you think I can do this? Your cousin, your sister, your friend tell you, well, you know you ain't got no education, or you know you ain't got no money, or you ain't got no connection. Like God didn't know what you didn't have when he called you. If he called you, whatever you lacked, he must have made a provision for it. If you stood up and answered the call, he ain't never expected you to have everything you needed. That's why he's God. All you got to do is stand up and he will provide all that you need. Well, he told Moses, I'm going to back you up. Moses went and he said to Pharaoh, let my people go. Pharaoh laughed at him. God backed him up. Now wait a minute. Somebody said, well, if God got all power, why did it take him 7 plagues to wear Pharaoh down? It didn't take 7 plagues to wear Pharaoh down. It took that to change the Israelites' mind about themselves. One of the problems we got, Bishop, is when you have been enslaved, you develop a slave mentality. And God had to first teach the Israelites that the God of Pharaoh was not the God that he was. So by doing 7 plagues and 7 miracles, it brought the slaves in the mentality of understanding the gods of Pharaoh that they feared were false gods. That the second Monday every year in January, that courthouse is closed celebrating his birthday. Judge can't come to work. Bail office closed. Post office closed. Schools closed. The whole nation closed down every year for a black preacher from Georgia that never held office. We look at what we see rather than what God can take and make us if we let go and believe that God has something special for us. We become married to our misery. And one of the things that we must do is break that yoke. I've been meeting with the rappers and telling them about the language we use. Because some of the reason that a lot of us can't get further is we set a mental ceiling on where to go. When I was growing up, we didn't have the things we have today, but we thought bigger. James Brown was singing, "Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud." Aretha was singing "Respect." I know y'all was in church, y'all wasn't listening to that kind of music. But today, the music sets a mentality of defeat, calling women out their names, using the N-word. If you call yourself something, you're going to behave what you call yourself. So we have started this campaign to bury the N-word. All of us has used it, but we said that's just bad. It limits how we think. It limits the psychology of our students. Johnny heard me talk about it before. One of the rappers got mad with me. Said, no, I'm going to use whatever I want to use. We had a debate one night on television, about an hour and a half. He had a nigger fit on me. Nigger, nigger, nigger. I kept saying, brother, I know we've used the word, but we nigger, nigger, nigger. All night long, just niggered me to death. Finally, we couldn't come to terms. He went his way, I went mine. About 4 or 5 weeks later, Bishop, I was on the road somewhere, and I picked up the paper, and he had been arrested. Got in some altercation with somebody, and they locked him up. About 2 days after that, they called me from my office in New York. said he was on the phone, wanted to talk to me. I said, well, put him through to my cell phone. They put him through. I said, how you doing? Man, I ain't doing that good. I said, what happened? Man, I got busted. I said, yeah, I read about it. I said, I'm sorry to hear about that. Well, yeah, I need your help. I said, you need my help? I need your help. I said, well, what you need me to do? He said, they violated my civil rights. I told him, niggas ain't got no civil rights. Riding first class with a back of the bus mentality. Headed forward, going backwards. It don't matter who frees you until you free yourself. I did an interview the other day. I started preaching, 4 years old, Church of God in Christ. You got one of the general board members with us. The reporter said to me, how did you preach at 4? I said, because nobody told me I couldn't. They're having Junior Usher Board anniversary. Bishop Washington's church, head of the Junior Usher, said, Al, what do you want to do at the anniversary? I said, preach. And they put me up, and I've been preaching ever since 9 years old. I went all over the country with Mahalia Jackson. But nobody told me I couldn't. Father left when I was 9. I went and on into life. When I was 18, went to Brooklyn College. And I never knew, Bishop, I was underprivileged, so I went to college. I went to sociology class. Professor said, we're going to study the underprivileged. I said, all right with me. He said, we're going to study folk live in public housing, on welfare, out of single-parent home. I said, he talking about me. Because my mother never raised me as what I wasn't. She raised me that if God be for me, it's more than the whole world against me. God had to put 7 plagues on Egypt so the Israelites would understand he was God. So when they would see his serpent eat Pharaoh's serpent and his waters turn red with blood, they would understand that what they feared wasn't nothing to be afraid of. Because the God that they served was the God himself. They got to the plague of the frogs. They'd shaken Pharaoh now. Pharaoh looked everywhere, frogs. Frogs everywhere. Frogs on the bathtub. Frogs coming out the bathtub. Frogs coming out the closet. Frogs everywhere. All of his cabinet members, frogs. The nation had been inhabited by frogs. Pharaoh couldn't take no more. He said, get Moses. Get Aaron. We got to stop this. I'll let the children go. Just get rid of these frogs. Find them. They went and found Moses and found Aaron, brought them in front of Pharaoh. He's there humiliated. He's there disgusted. He's at his breaking point. He said, listen, tell your God, I'll let them go. I'll let the children go. How you define yourself is how you confine yourself. That's why the Bible said, let the weak say I'm strong. Let me go to the book, Exodus, 8th chapter. Getting at the 6th verse. Exodus 8 and 6. And Aaron stretched his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their enchantments and brought up frogs upon the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, entreat the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me and from my people. And I will let the people go, that they may do sacrifice unto the Lord. And Moses said unto Pharaoh, glory over me. When shall I retreat for thee, and for thy servants, and for thy people, to destroy the frogs from thee and the houses, that they may remain in the river only? And he said, tomorrow. And he said, be it according to thy word, that thou might know that there is none like unto the Lord our God. May God add a blessing to the reading of his word. I want to use for a thought this morning, one more night with the frogs. One more night with the frogs. Now, most of us know the story of the Exodus. They were slaves in Egypt. The Israelites held in bondage 300 years, made to work for no wages, made to make brick with no straw. They prayed and asked God to deliver them. And God raised up Moses and made him the agent of liberation. One of the things that is interesting about Moses' story is God raised him right up in Pharaoh's house. Sometimes it is the most unlikely people and under the most unlikely circumstances that God can use people. That's why you ought not ever try to determine which way God is coming. Let me tell you something. I fly a lot. I've been in 3 cities the last 2 days, getting ready to fly in a couple hours. Reverend Bishop Brother LeBlanc, Lamont, who travels, me tell you, I'll fly anytime. It don't matter. Late flight, early flight, good weather, bad weather. Plane go, I got to get where I'm going. The only time I won't get on the plane, Bishop, is if they tell me it's the pilot's first trip. They be standing there in the airport saying, it's all right, Reverend. He done been to pilot school, he been certified, he got his license. I got all that. But just something about the fault that the first time we go up and we may go through some clouds and he ain't never been in charge of the radar before. I don't want to be the first there, first time he figured that out. I don't want to be there. Or we may hit a little turbulence and he ain't never been in charge of the powers before. I don't want him to experiment with me up there. What I mean, I meet folk that tell me this is my background. I've lived a clean, pristine life, never been in trouble, never had a problem. Nobody talk against me, nobody mad at me. I've lived a life that is clean as the driven snow. Well, don't hang out with me. Because if you hang out with me, we liable to go through something. And if you ain't never been through nothing, I don't know if you can get through something. I don't like to hang out with folk been too clean and too pure. Because I don't know what you can take if we get some trouble. I like to hang out with folk that been knocked down and dragged through the mud and been talked about and been scandalized and been rejected, been heartbroken, been hurt and been wounded and been muddied up and sodded up, and somehow God picked them up and dusted them off. I know they can get through something because they've been through something. You ain't never been through nothing, you just guessing what God can do. But if you've been through the fight, if you've been through the flood, if you made it when nobody thought you'd make it, you know what God can do because he done it for you. could sing like that, but God didn't give me that gift. I wish I could sing like they sung for the morning service, but I can't sing like that. But sometimes in the midnight hour, after my cell phone stopped ringing, after my doorbell quieted down, I go out, Bishop, in my living room, all by myself, and I sing my song. I can't sing for Sunday morning worship. I can't sing for the convocation in August, but I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye, his eye, his eye is on the sparrow. I know he watches me. Yes, 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 somebody here today been sleeping with your frogs. Somebody sleeping with your doubt. Sleeping with you don't need in your life. You come today thinking you was going to hear civil rights lessons. But I came to get you to give up your nights with the frog. Today is your day. Today is your day. To live differently and to walk out of here different than which you came. If you're here today and ready to give it up, not tomorrow, but right now, I want you to come down the aisle to me right now. You don't need one more night. You don't need to wait and talk it over with your family. Right now, just step out right now, and God will do the rest. This is your day. This is your hour. I want you to step out right now. Right now. Don't check it away. Right now. That's right. Come on. You don't need another night. Let them frogs go.